Hey, welcome to another video. We're at the St. Louis Union Station, now home to the St. Louis Aquarium, as well as other attractions. What you will not find here is the Amtrak station. Today I'll be taking Amtrak's Texas Eagle, Train 21, from St. Louis to Dallas, Texas. We'll be riding in a Superliner 1 sleeping car in a deluxe bedroom, which Amtrak now calls a bedroom. Amtrak utilizes the Gateway station, which is just a few short blocks away from this beautiful old train station. Only a few of the tracks from the former station still exist. Currently, they're utilized by these private rail cars, including this awesome Seaboard Coastline observation car, the Hollywood Beach. You don't see rail cars like this built anymore. This one is one of my personal favorites, and I was very happy to see that it's been restored. Hopefully one day I'll be able to ride on this rail car. It's currently owned by a private owner, and if you're watching this video, I would absolutely love to ride your rail car. This SW1 locomotive was owned by the Washington Terminal Railway. It was in Washington Union Station for much of its career, but now it finds itself in St. Louis, Missouri. What better place for an Amtrak station than under a freeway? That's Amtrak's St. Louis Gateway Station for you. This nice Texas Eagle. It's not as long as it normally is. So right here is a Superliner 1 coach. This car has seating on the lower level as well as the upper level. How's it going, sir? This car right here is a Superliner 1 coach baggage car. So on the lower level, instead of seating, there's a baggage room, as you can see by this door right here. Now right here is one of my least favorite cars, and we're gonna go in depth on this one. It's a Superliner 1 diner lounge car, also known as the Cross Country Cafe. This was converted from a regular Superliner 1 dining car in the early 2000s. Right in front of it is a Superliner 2 sleeping car. These cars were built in the mid-1990s by Bombardier. On the head end of the train is this P42 DC locomotive built by General Electric. These things have been a workhorse for Amtrak and are slated to be replaced within the next few years. This engine will lead us west to Dallas and beyond. So tonight we're in the 2131 car. Sign's a little bit messed up. This is once again, this is a Superliner 1 sleeping car. These cars were refurbished in the early 2000s. We'll take a more in-depth look coming up. As you can see, this is where most of the baggage space is if you have larger luggage. Directly in front of us is the family bedroom, as well as these 4 roomettes, rooms 11 through 14. Up the stairs we go. Now over here, these are the upper level roomettes, rooms 1 through 10. There's also a public restroom right here. But we are in bedroom C today, which is over here to the left. Let's go check that out. The Superliner bedrooms offer quite a lot of space compared to the roomettes on these cars. Not to mention you get your own personal bathroom, as you can see, that also doubles as the shower. So there's your shower fixture. You'll note that these cars are a little bit nicer than the Superliner 2s. These cars were refurbished in the mid-2000s with nicer fixtures, just a better overall design, kind of learning off of mistakes that they might have made with the previous 2 cars. And honestly, they still look pretty good, even though most of these cars are starting to get a little bit more beat up. So each room comes with 2 bottles of water. There's also more water available upon request. You can say we have the safety card and this dining car menu, which we'll check out. This table's pretty large. This one's seen better days. It's has a little bit of wear and tear on it, but still has a lot of space to get work done or play cards or something. So one issue with these cars that you might run into is the lack of power outlets. These cars were built in the late 1970s, so power outlets were not, necessary the way we use them. So there's one here, and then right above the sink there are 2. So I would always recommend bringing an adapter, so that way you can charge more things at once. Alright, so dinner has arrived. I got the shrimp and lobster sauce. So let's take a look and see what this thing looks like. Alright, here's the shrimp and the lobster sauce. Looks alright. I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. Hopefully it tastes as good as it smells. It does smell pretty good, I will give them that. But still doesn't beat the old dining car service that they used to offer. They really need to bring that back as soon as they possibly can. So overall, that was a pretty good meal. Tasted fine. My only complaint was the lack of shrimp. I think I only counted 5 or maybe 6 shrimp in the whole dish. I would prefer to have more, but they're already doing this cost-cutting dining service, so it makes sense that they're cutting that corner too. So otherwise, a pretty good meal. Alright, so let's check out this sleeping car. So right at the top of the stairs here is where the coffee machine would usually be. Obviously, with current health situation, they're not offering this, but There's still water. Sometimes there's ice. Got some extra tissues here. A lot of safety nets. It's kind of crazy. So here's the restroom. Very spacious. And there are a couple of these per car. Go check them out. Here on the lower level, 1, 2, and 3 restrooms. There's also this shower and dressing room. I think someone's in there right now, so we'll refrain from going in there. So here's a Superliner 1 roomette. Unlike the Mineola 1 sleeping cars, these cars don't have toilets, and there is no overhead storage space. There is very little headroom when you're sleeping in these cars. Now these are the nice sleeping cars, the Superliner 1. This next car is not. Missouri. This is a Superliner 2 sleeping car. As you can see right off the bat, these cars have not been refurbished, and still feature the original carpeting on the walls, as well as a bunch of different original design features. Notice how this coffee area is a little bit different in design. So the layout on these cars is identical to the Superliner ones. But as you can see, the aesthetics are just not as visually pleasing. And you have 1, 2, 3 bathrooms, and then you can see the shower is kind of backwards from the design on the Superliner 1 cars. Hopefully these cars will get a refurbishment in the next few years. They are beyond tired. And next up is the Deluxe car, the Amtrak cross-country cafe. So in the mid-2000s, Amtrak was looking at ways to streamline their dining service. So they took these Superliner 1 dining cars and converted them into diner lounge cars, also nicknamed the cross-country cafes. Now initially, it was met with a lot of positive feedback, and people thought it was possibly a really good idea. But it has just turned into an absolute disgrace and a disaster. These cars feature a unique design with these U-shaped booths in addition to the normal 4-person booths. Initially, they were looking at possibly removing sightseer lounge cars from trains and keeping all food service to this one single car. The first train they tried it out on was the Capital Limited. I believe that was 2007 or early 2008, or possibly even late 2006. Anyway, that did not go very good. It was met with a lot of criticism and a bunch of design flaws, a bunch of things that, you know, if they actually listen to employees and listen to feedback of customers, they wouldn't have run into these issues. And instead, they put millions of dollars into a product that ended up costing them way more money to redesign, and now ultimately was wasted because, quite frankly, this whole design is just not functional for what they needed to do. So from a customer standpoint and an employee standpoint, these U-shaped booths were an absolute atrocity. So initially in the prototype diner lounge car, these tables were actually smaller than they are now. When you eat in the dining car, you need a lot of space to spread out the food, the dishes, the drinks, and clearly these tables are not large enough to handle that. So on the other end of the car, where the main dining area is, these tables were ultimately, the booths themselves were ultimately removed and replaced with the typical booth design holding 4 people. Why they went with this design is frustrating to figure out. It obviously wasn't a cost thing. I'm not sure what they were thinking passengers do on these trains, but it cost them a lot of money and it created a lot of headaches for passengers and employees running the trains that didn't need to happen. So as you can see, the seating is very awkward. I'm facing straight out from the U-shaped booths, and you're facing right at the people eating across from you. Also, not to mention, there's not much table space, and these booths are meant to accommodate 3 people. So I'm not sure what they were thinking as far as people actually eating full meals. Now, on the other end of the car, they finally replaced the booths for these 3-person booths with these regular ones. The only problem with these booths are that they're kind of curved in their design. So people seated on the inner seats will have more leg room, but on the outer end, people have less leg room. The seats will be closer together. Now, not everything is bad on these trains. These lights in the middle look modern and are a nice touch for the tables. Now, one of the major design features of the Cross Country Cafe was bringing the snack bar from the lower level of the Sightseer Lounge and bringing it into the dining car design, which is what they were able to do with this here. It's actually very visually pleasing when you walk into the car, but I won't say the functionality is probably the best. Now, initially, when these cars entered service, these display cases were full of items that you could purchase on, like t-shirts and other trinkets, which is pretty cool. But now it's just basically wasting space in the car, which is no surprise. It usually is what happens to things like this. And checking out the menu here, not much has really changed over the years. Just little changes. Like they used to serve Pepsi, now they serve Coke products. Nothing really notable. Also, as you can see, they have this protective glass. It actually looks pretty good on these cars. Sometimes it doesn't look like it fits in with the car. This actually was made pretty well. Amtrak has talked about not restoring the Sightseer Lounge car to this train, the Texas Eagle, as well as other trains that it's been removed from during the pandemic. I personally think that's a very foolish move, not only for the passengers, but also for the crew members. Crew members are trying their absolute best to make all of these troubling changes and just frustrating moves due to the current climate of things, and they're making the customer experience as good as it possibly can be. But it can't move forward without there being a better flexibility for crew members and better workspaces for them to be able to do their jobs to the best of their ability. So hopefully Amtrak will not cheap out and restore the Sightseer lounge cars to this train and any train that they were thinking about removing it from, because they are something that helps attract people to ride these trains and motivates people to choose it over another travel option, or even bring back the passengers that they already have. I myself included miss those cars and would love to be hanging out in them right now, chit-chatting with my fellow riders from all over the country and all over the world. So hopefully they don't go with keeping it off this train, because for the sake of the crew and the sake of the passengers riding these trains, we need that lounge car back. Alright, gonna try and make up that bed. Voila. Now I just gotta make the bed. Well, good morning. It's just after 6:30 in the morning. We are arriving in Texarkana, Arkansas.
for track space in front of us. I just wanted to let you all know why I'm so hypercritical about Amtrak's equipment and food service. So I've been riding Amtrak since 2000, and over that time the crews have been awesome ever since I was a little child, but the food service and the equipment has gone through many variations and very many changes over the years. Some very good, some very bad. And you're gonna get that with a government-run operation, no matter what it is. Now, the thing is, they spend a lot of money, and they do still have to come up with a lot of these ideas. Now, sometimes it just comes down to implementation and how you go about things, and many times they'll listen to employees' feedback on certain subjects, such as on the Viewliner 2 sleeping cars, where they need to put the linen closets, and then ultimately not listen to them and install them in a place that isn't convenient, or not even have them at all. Now, I just want to offer my opinion on these things to hopefully make things better long term, and kind of put it out there that although it is a privilege to be on these trains and to be riding them, especially 50 years after Amtrak was inaugurated in 1971, I think there is room to still keep these trains out here as a viable travel option. And realistically, they're connecting communities across this nation that don't have any form of transportation. There are a lot of people that they can't drive places, or there's no air transportation, and Amtrak is the only option to travel from a lot of these small cities. So just think about that when you talk about Amtrak and defunding them or getting rid of them altogether, because there's a lot more to it than just profits and being in the green as much as possible, or not being in the red. Anyway, back to the regularly scheduled program. We are operating about 30 minutes late. We were due out of Texarkana at 5:58 a.m. Central Time, and it is currently a little after 6:45. So our next stop will be across the border in Marshall, Texas. We only have a few more stops until our ultimate destination in Dallas, but it's going to take about 5 hours to get there. So it's almost time for breakfast, so go check that out, and we'll check out the Cross Country Cafe one last time for this trip, and hopefully enjoy a semi-decent flexible dining breakfast. These cars still feature the manual roll signs with a car number. These ones are nicely made up for the train. Sometimes it won't be made up, and it'll be some random train. Actually, these Superliner 2 sleeping cars used to carry names. This car was the Missouri. Now, as you can see on the Superliner 2, it's actually a digital. These cars were built in the mid-1990s, so they featured more technology than the Superliner 1 cars, but the Superliner 1 cars are nicer than these cars now. So unlike last night, we were able to eat breakfast in the Cross Country Cafe today.
As you can see, the U-shaped booths have been removed from this side of the car and replaced with the more traditional booth style. Alright, thank you, sir. So for breakfast this morning, I got the omelet. One of the few hot breakfast choices currently available. Let's see how it is. So it doesn't look like there's much to this. It looks like your typical microwave reheated omelet that you get at the grocery store. Hopefully it's a little better than it looks. It smells alright. Fortunately, one of the issues with prepackaged eggs is when you reheat them, they're very dry. And this is of no fault of the people cooking them on these trains. These employees are absolutely fantastic. But, oh my gosh, this might be the driest egg I've ever had in my life. But that's what the hot sauce is for, I guess. Try to finish this off. So while I was able to finish that meal, an omelet, preheated, pre-made, honestly looks good on paper, but again, in reality, it's not a good product to be serving passengers. Hopefully we can go back to freshly made omelets and eggs and pancakes and railroad French toast getting really soon, because they need it on these trains.
Fresh air smoke break will be out of Longview, Texas. Longview, Texas will be our next fresh air smoke break. So again, this is Marshall, Texas right now. If you're training in Marshall, Texas, you need to be in the first coach car behind the cafe car. That's where we're training passengers at. Next stop in about 30 minutes, once we depart from here, will be that of Longview, Texas.
So the Amtrak station here in Marshall, Texas was built in 1912 for the Texas and Pacific Railway. It was utilized until the early 1970s when Amtrak started service through here again. The station was at risk of demolition in the late 1980s by the Union Pacific, who owns the property here, but the local community stepped in and they were able to save this building, and now it houses the Texas and Pacific Railway Museum. The station is in the middle of a Y, so the tracks over there are the ones we're going to be traveling on towards Dallas and Fort Worth and beyond, and we're on the one leg of the Y track.
Ticket back, and I will have the police here to escort you off. So let's follow the rules, ladies and gentlemen. We're all adults. Follow the rules, and we get to your destination. But if you decide you don't want to do that, you can get off the next stop and find another means to your destination. If you want to ride a train, you must wear your mask at all times. Thank you. arriving Longview, Longview, Texas, connecting buses to Houston, Shreveport, and Bossier City. Once again, if Longview should stop, take this time, check up, down, around below, see for personal belongings. Remain seated until we make a complete stop. And again, for those who are traveling through, get off train, stretch, stay, smoke a cigarette. You do at your own risk. So do not leave train side, and with all aboard big giving, please enter the train. Because if you're not on the train leave Longview, you'll be left at Longview. I know, because I see you do it. So is James Longer, they see me do it too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're almost there. Little bit more.
One notable difference between the Superliner 1 and Superliner 2 cars are the trucks. And also note, usually above the numbers was the old number plate. Now this car doesn't have it. On the other end, it looks like they removed them. So on most of the Superliner 1 cars, you can still see an old number plate. Otherwise, these cars are virtually identical on the outside. So just a few facts about this car. So this is sleeping car 32059. Originally, these sleeping cars were supposed to carry the names of national parks throughout the country. So this car was going to carry the name of the Sleeping Bear Dunes. I'm not sure where that is. Probably look it up after the fact. But I thought that was pretty cool. So this car went through a overhaul, and it was completed on December 2nd, 2005. So, being that it's 2021, that overhaul is probably starting to reach the end of its useful lifespan. But for 15 years, since these cars have been overhauled, this car is still in pretty good shape. There's some wear and tear below the door there, but overall it's not too bad. Now, as you can see, I have the bed, the upper berth, in the lower position. Now I'm only 5'8", 5'9", so having it lowered isn't too much of an issue. I just have to watch my head when I'm leaving the room. But for anyone who's taller than what I am, it's probably a little bit uncomfortable to have it down. And as you can see, the overhead space in the Superliner cars isn't that much. The Viewliners, you get quite a bit more headroom and space to turn around once you climb up to the upper berth. So just keep that in mind if you're claustrophobic. Some call it a coffin-like feel. I've never been in a coffin, and hopefully I'm only in a coffin at the end of a very long and prosperous life. So I won't think of it like that.
passengers. Second stop's going to be for the coach passengers. For the coach passengers, the only car that will open up will be the car behind the cafe car. If you're not in that car behind the cafe car, you need to come to that car to detrain for Mineola, Texas. Once again, Mineola, Texas, coming up next in a few moments. We're doing our first stop right now. Second stop in a few moments. Mineola, Texas.
Alright, so we're on the move out of Mineola, Texas. It's 10:39 a.m., so we're an hour and 14 minutes late. If you look outside, there's this cool miniature railway. I don't know how often they operate, but it's a pretty neat little loop here. I guess they have late shows or something in the winter. Pretty neat. Anyway, Dallas, Texas will be next, and that is going to be my destination for this trip. See how much time we can make up coming into Dallas. So as we approach Dallas, the end of my journey on this train today, I'll just leave my thoughts on what needs to be improved. First things first, daily service. The daily service is being restored at the end of May 2021. The second thing that they need to improve on is the food service. We need to get back to full dining service. We need to bring the pride back in the employees, and really just need to bring back what long distance rail travel is all about. And then third of all, the restoration of the Sightseer lounge car on board this train. There are talks that Amtrak doesn't want to restore it as a cost-saving move, but as a passenger, I think it's a fool's decision to not bring that car back. So hopefully Amtrak can improve upon the products that they have. It's always an up and down battle, but it's been around for 50 years. There's been a lot of ups and downs over those 50 years. Hopefully we can start anew and help improve passenger rail travel, both long distance and high speed rail, for a better future. Overall, my trip on the Texas Eagle was very enjoyable, and I hope to ride the full length of this trip at some point in the near future.
ready to now arrive in Dallas, Texas, ladies and gentlemen. If Dallas is your stop, please take this time to check up, down, around below your seats for your personal belongings. Remain seated till we make a complete stop. Wait for it. All right. Dallas, Texas, has send your car down the stairs. Use the handrails. Come downstairs, exit the train. Thank you.
We got a Kansas City Southern train coming behind us. So anyway, if you like the video, please leave a like. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, it really helps us grow. We'll be taking plenty of other train trips in the near future, both here in America and hopefully across the world. So any help at all, so like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell me where you want to see me go. I'll try to make it happen. Anyway, thanks for watching and joining me on this trip. See you next time.